We all know the classic illustration of human evolution. A knuckle-walking ape gradually stands up, transitions into a hunched caveman, and finally becomes a modern human. It is a clean, intuitive story of constant biological upgrades. But the modern fossil record and ancient DNA sequencing prove this linear sequence never actually happened. Evolution is a sprawling, chaotic web. Multiple different human species lived, migrated, and impeded at the exact same time. If we didn't evolve in a single neat line, who else was walking the earth with us? And what does our actual family tree look like? To understand the true history of our species, we have to throw out the ladder and look at the evidence buried in African soil and ancient DNA. This is an aerial view of the Afar Depression in Ethiopia's East African Rift Valley. 3.4 million years ago, this lush landscape was a prime ecosystem for early hominins. If the straight-line theory were accurate, we would expect to find exactly one type of human ancestor dominating this territory, waiting to evolve into the next link in the chain. We do find remains like these, the famous 3.2 million-year-old skeleton of Australopithecus afarensis, better known as Lucy. Her pelvic structure confirms she was already walking upright. But researchers excavating the exact same geological layers discovered fossilized foot bones belonging to a completely different species, Australopithecus dyremeta. They lived in the same area at the same time, using a slightly different mechanical method for walking. Walking on two legs was an evolutionary experiment tested by multiple competing species simultaneously. There was no single baton being passed from one generation to the next. Look closely at this rugged excavation site at Jebel Irhoud in Morocco. The fossils found here force us to rethink how Homo sapiens came to be. In 2017, scientists dated this fossilized skull to roughly 315,000 years ago. This discovery revised the timeline for Homo sapiens, extending our species' history by over 100,000 years and shifting the location to North Africa, thousands of miles from the traditional East African cradle. Early humans were evolving across the entire African continent at the same time. Different populations were separated by deserts and forests, but periodic climate shifts allowed them to reconnect, trading both genes and early technology. This continent-wide network drove rapid cognitive development. This piece of ochre from Blombo's cave in South Africa features deliberate abstract crosshatch engravings. It is 77,000 years old, predating the famous European cave art by tens of thousands of years. Africa operated as a massive, interconnected engine of evolution. The constant mixing of diverse populations across the continent produced the physical traits and the symbolic thinking that define modern humans. Around 60,000 years ago, groups of Homo sapiens migrated out of Africa and expanded into Eurasia. When they arrived, the landscape was already occupied by older family branches, including Neanderthals and Denisovans. In 2018, geneticists sequenced a 90,000-year-old bone fragment found in a Siberian cave. DNA revealed it belonged to a first-generation child, a girl with a Neanderthal mother and Denisovan father. When modern humans encountered these older populations, we didn't simply conquer them or drive them to a clean extinction. We interbred and absorbed them into our own genetic line. This animated diagram maps the true complexity of human evolution. Instead of a single line, it shows multiple Homo lineages branching out, overlapping, and migrating across hundreds of thousands of years. Many of these branches were highly adapted to specific environments, like Homo floresiensis. Known as the hobbit, this species stood just 1 meter tall and survived on the Indonesian island of Flores until about 50,000 years ago. Over millennia, shifting climates, competition, and natural disasters took their toll. Every single one of these alternative branches eventually died out. Being the only human species on the planet is a historical anomaly. For almost our entire existence, we were simply one part of a very crowded family tree. This overlapping evolutionary journey left a permanent biological record inside the DNA of every living person. This visualization breaks down the modern genome. Non-African populations carry 1.5 to 2. We carry the genetic ghosts of extinct cousins, but the science is clear. We are a single species, and every one of us carries the evolutionary legacy of the African continent in our blood.